Good evening. I'm your anchor, and this is Big Back News, bringing you comprehensive coverage of the stories shaping our nation and the world. We begin tonight with a developing situation in Washington that is impacting millions of Americans. The United States government is currently experiencing a partial shutdown, which is now projected to extend until at least Tuesday. This ongoing congressional impasse impacts several federal agencies, potentially disrupting a range of services for citizens nationwide. The shutdown arises from unresolved disagreements between lawmakers over budget allocations and policy stipulations. It signifies a significant breakdown in legislative cooperation, leading to operational halts across various government sectors. Millions of Americans could face delays or suspension of public services, highlighting the broader consequences of such political stalemates on the daily lives of the populace and the overall functioning of the nation. Speaker of the House Mike Johnson is facing immense pressure, with his strategy for funding federal agencies being described as a high-stakes gamble, testing his leadership and the unity of the Republican caucus. The proposed agenda involves navigating conservative demands for spending cuts against the realities of a bipartisan legislative process. Johnson's ability to keep the government open without alienating either his base or moderate members will be crucial for his speakership. Failure to pass appropriations could lead to a full government shutdown, impacting various federal services and potentially causing political fallout for House Republicans ahead of an election year. As the shutdown enters its second day, the House of Representatives is currently facing crucial votes to avert a broader crisis. The core of the disagreement revolves around funding levels for key government programs and controversial policy riders that Republicans are pushing for. Democrats, meanwhile, are resisting cuts and demanding a clean, continuing resolution to keep agencies open. The escalating standoff risks disrupting essential government services and could have broader economic implications if not resolved swiftly. Among the federal agencies preparing for significant operational disruptions is the Federal Aviation Administration. A specific plan for the FAA indicates that approximately 10,000 employees are slated for furlough, highlighting the widespread impact of the congressional budget impasse on crucial services. While air traffic controllers are typically deemed essential and would continue to work, a reduction in support staff, inspectors, and other vital roles could strain the system, potentially leading to delays and reduced oversight. The planned furloughs underscore the direct human cost and operational risks associated with a government shutdown, pressuring lawmakers to find a resolution quickly, as the continued closure of parts of the federal government directly affects public safety, economic activity, and the livelihoods of thousands of federal workers. Adding to the economic uncertainty caused by the shutdown, the Bureau of Labor Statistics has announced that the highly anticipated January jobs report will be delayed as a consequence of the ongoing government shutdown. This delay deprives economists, policymakers, and financial markets of crucial, up-to-date information on the health of the U.S. labor market. The jobs report is a critical economic indicator that provides insights into employment figures, wage growth, and unemployment rates, which are closely watched by the Federal Reserve for monetary policy decisions. Its absence creates a vacuum of data, making it harder to accurately assess current economic conditions and forecast future trends. For U.S. markets, this delay introduces uncertainty and could impact investor confidence, as key data for decision-making is unavailable. The lack of this fundamental economic snapshot could lead to cautious trading and underscores the broader economic implications and disruptions caused by government shutdowns. Economists and market analysts will be closely watching for updates on when the report might be released. Turning now to a major legal development, Fulton County is anticipated to submit a new court filing that will formally challenge the legality of the FBI's seizure of 2020 election records. This impending legal maneuver signals continued contention and scrutiny surrounding the handling and acquisition of sensitive evidence from the last presidential election. The challenge could have significant implications for ongoing investigations into election integrity and the parameters of federal law enforcement actions within state jurisdictions. It raises questions about the scope of the FBI, its authority, and the proper chain of custody for election-related materials. This development is likely to reignite debates about election processes and the federal government's role in local electoral oversight, potentially shaping future legal interpretations regarding election record management and access. A former Georgia official has expressed concern that the ongoing FBI probe into Fulton County is creating a climate of uncertainty and sowing seeds of doubt amongst voters. This investigation, which has been highly scrutinized, could significantly influence public perception and electoral outcomes as critical elections draw nearer. The probe's timing and focus on a key swing county in a politically divided state raise questions about its potential impact on voter confidence and turnout. Political analysts suggest that any perceived irregularities or controversies stemming from the investigation could become a talking point for campaigns, potentially swaying undecided voters or energizing specific bases. The official's comments highlight the delicate balance between law enforcement's role and its potential political ramifications. Ensuring transparency and maintaining public trust are crucial to prevent the perception that such investigations are politically motivated, especially during sensitive electoral periods when every factor can influence the democratic process. In other national news, attorneys representing victims of Jeffrey Epstein have formally requested judges to mandate the removal of recently unsealed Epstein documents. Their plea is based on serious allegations of thousands of redaction failures found within the released files. This legal action underscores persistent concerns regarding privacy, the integrity of evidence, and the complete disclosure of information pertinent to the high-profile sex trafficking case. The lawyers argue that insufficient redaction could expose victims and sensitive details unnecessarily. The outcome of this request could significantly impact public access to these controversial documents and set precedents for how sensitive legal files are handled in future high-profile cases, ensuring victim protection while maintaining transparency. Adding another dimension to the Epstein saga, newly revealed emails belonging to deceased financier Jeffrey Epstein detail a scheme to gain access to Libya's frozen state assets. The emails suggest Epstein and his associates were exploring avenues to exploit the substantial wealth held by the Libyan government, which had been frozen internationally following the fall of Muammar Gaddafi's regime. This revelation adds another layer to Epstein's extensive network of influence and illicit activities. The discovery sheds light on Epstein's apparent attempts to leverage his connections and financial expertise for potentially dubious international dealings beyond his known sex trafficking crimes. Accessing frozen state assets typically involves complex legal and political maneuvering, hinting at the high-level international figures or intermediaries Epstein might have engaged with for such an ambitious plan. This new information further exposes the depth and breadth of Epstein's global machinations and raises questions about who else might have been involved in or aware of these plans. It underscores the ongoing scrutiny into the shadowy world of international finance and political influence, potentially prompting further investigations into how powerful individuals attempted to exploit vulnerable nations' resources for personal gain. Meanwhile, former President Donald Trump has publicly stated his intention to file a lawsuit against an unnamed author. The basis for this legal action is an accusation by Trump that the author conspired with Jeffrey Epstein to do harm to him. This announcement introduces a new legal front for the former president, linking a highly controversial figure, Jeffrey Epstein, to an alleged plot against Trump. The promised lawsuit highlights ongoing legal and public relations battles involving Trump, potentially drawing significant national media attention due to the high-profile individuals and serious allegations involved. The specifics of the author's identity and the nature of the alleged harm remain central to this developing story. In a deeply concerning development, police forces are currently engaged in an active search for the mother of prominent TV personality Savannah Guthrie, with authorities now expressing a belief that a crime has taken place. A sheriff involved in the ongoing investigation has publicly stated she did not leave on her own, strongly indicating suspicions of foul play. This development has escalated the urgency and seriousness of the search, shifting the focus from a simple missing person case to a potential criminal inquiry. Details surrounding the circumstances of her disappearance are being meticulously investigated by law enforcement officials. The investigation continues to unfold as police work to uncover leads and determine the exact events that led to her disappearance, aiming to bring clarity to this distressing situation. Shifting gears to international affairs, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has announced a temporary cessation of new targeted Russian strikes on the nation's energy infrastructure. This development, if it holds, marks a notable shift in the ongoing conflict, which has seen critical Ukrainian utilities repeatedly hit by Russian forces, particularly during the colder months. The attacks on energy infrastructure have been a significant aspect of Russia's strategy, aiming to cripple Ukraine's ability to sustain its population and military operations by disrupting power and heating. The reported pause could be attributed to various factors, including changing military tactics, logistical challenges for Russia, or international pressure. While this news offers a momentary reprieve for Ukraine's energy sector and its citizens, the broader conflict continues. International observers will be closely watching to see if this pattern holds, or if it's merely a temporary lull before potential renewed assaults, underscoring the volatile nature of the war in Eastern Europe. However, President Zelensky has accused Russia of engaging in logistics terror following a series of Russian attacks targeting Ukraine's railway infrastructure. These strikes aim to disrupt crucial supply lines used for both military resupply and civilian transportation, exacerbating the challenges faced by Ukraine in maintaining its defense and providing essential services to its population. The attacks on railways are a deliberate strategy to cripple Ukraine's logistical capabilities, impacting the movement of troops, equipment, humanitarian aid, and vital goods across the country. This tactic is particularly significant as Ukraine heavily relies on its rail network for internal movement and receiving international assistance. The damage inflicted not only creates immediate logistical bottlenecks, but also poses a severe threat to the civilian population dependent on these networks. Such actions escalate the economic and humanitarian toll of the war, aiming to undermine Ukraine's resilience and ability to continue fighting. Zelensky's warning underscores the strategic importance of these attacks and calls for renewed international attention and support to help Ukraine counter Russia's persistent efforts to destabilize the nation's critical infrastructure. Ukraine has expressed significant satisfaction, hailing real results on the battlefield following Elon Musk's decision to restrict Russian forces' access to Starlink satellite internet services. This move is seen as a strategic advantage, directly impacting Russian military communications and drone operations, which rely heavily on such connectivity for effective coordination. Musk's company, SpaceX, reportedly took measures to curb the unauthorized use of Starlink by Russian forces in occupied territories, citing concerns about its potential weaponization and deviation from its intended purpose of humanitarian communication. The decision has reignited discussions about the role and responsibility of private tech companies in international conflicts and their influence on geopolitical outcomes. The Starlink system has been a critical asset for Ukraine's defense, providing resilient communication capabilities amidst infrastructure damage. Ukraine's commendation underscores the tangible impact of technology on modern warfare and the complex ethical considerations faced by global corporations operating within conflict zones. New satellite imagery and reports indicate that Russia has resumed its aerial assaults on Ukraine, following a brief lull in hostilities primarily attributed to severe cold weather conditions. The renewed strikes appear to target critical infrastructure and residential areas, suggesting a continued strategy to exert pressure on Ukrainian cities and defense capabilities. This resumption signals an intensification of the conflict after a period where sub-zero temperatures likely hindered large-scale military operations. Analysts suggest Russia may be seeking to exploit any perceived vulnerabilities or to deplete Ukraine's air defense resources ahead of potential future offensives, reinforcing the brutal realities of winter warfare. The international community continues to monitor the situation closely, reiterating calls for de-escalation and peace. The renewed aggression underscores the ongoing humanitarian crisis and the unwavering need for sustained international support for Ukraine's sovereignty and its people. On the topic of international leadership, former President Donald Trump reportedly maintains his ambition to acquire Greenland, a controversial stance that has prompted a warning from Greenland's Prime Minister, Nielsen. This reiterates a pursuit from his presidency, where the idea of purchasing the autonomous Danish territory sparked widespread international amusement and diplomatic friction. Trump's interest in Greenland stems from its strategic geopolitical location and vast natural resources, particularly its rich mineral deposits and potential as a shipping hub in a changing Arctic. However, Greenland's leadership and the Danish government have consistently stated that the territory is not for sale, emphasizing its sovereignty and the self-determination of its people. The renewed mention of this objective underscores the enduring U.S. strategic interest in the Arctic region, which is becoming increasingly important due to climate change and resource accessibility. This warning from Greenland's Prime Minister serves as a firm reminder of international boundaries and the complexities of territorial claims in a sensitive geopolitical landscape, highlighting potential diplomatic challenges. Moving to financial markets, global financial markets are experiencing significant turbulence as a widespread slump in commodity prices sends ripples through economies worldwide. The decline across various raw materials, including oil, metals, and agricultural products, is causing concern among investors and policymakers about its potential impact on global economic stability and growth prospects. This downturn in commodities is attributed to a confluence of factors, including slowing demand from major industrial economies, persistent supply chain issues, and geopolitical tensions that have unsettled trade routes. The slump affects commodity-dependent nations particularly hard, potentially leading to reduced export revenues and economic contraction in those regions. For consumers, lower commodity prices could eventually translate into reduced costs for goods and energy, potentially easing inflationary pressures. However, the immediate concern for global markets remains the volatility and uncertainty this broad decline introduces, signaling a challenging period ahead for international trade and investment. Recent data indicates a robust expansion in U.S. manufacturing activity, marking the strongest growth seen since 2022. This uptick suggests a resilient industrial sector, potentially signaling positive momentum for the broader American economy. The expansion is a key indicator often monitored by economists and policymakers as it reflects demand, production levels, and employment trends within a critical segment of the economy. Sustained growth in manufacturing can contribute to overall economic stability and job creation. Such positive economic data could influence future monetary policy decisions by the Federal Reserve, potentially easing concerns about an economic slowdown and providing a more optimistic outlook for investors monitoring the health of U.S. markets. U.S. equity markets concluded a recent trading session lower, reflecting a broad-based decline primarily driven by significant weakness observed in the semiconductor and mining sectors. This downward pressure indicated a cautious sentiment among investors, who reacted to a combination of company-specific news and broader economic concerns. The dip in chip stocks often signals potential headwinds for the technology sector, given their foundational role in numerous industries, while weakness in miners can point to concerns about global demand or commodity price fluctuations. These sector-specific issues appear to have overshadowed any positive market catalysts, contributing to a lackluster performance across the major indices. Investors are now closely monitoring upcoming economic data and corporate earnings reports for clearer signals on market direction, especially concerning inflation trends and the Federal Reserve's monetary policy. The continued volatility underscores the need for careful portfolio management in the current economic climate, as sector-specific vulnerabilities can quickly impact overall market stability. Turning to corporate news, Oracle's stock is experiencing a significant rise following the company's announcement of ambitious $50 billion fundraising plans. This substantial financial maneuver indicates Oracle's strategic intent to fuel future growth, invest in new technologies, or potentially fund acquisitions that could expand its market footprint. The market's positive reaction suggests investor confidence in Oracle's long-term vision and its ability to effectively deploy such a large capital injection. Fundraising on this scale often signals major strategic shifts or aggressive expansion efforts that could significantly impact the company's competitive position within the enterprise software and cloud computing sectors. Analysts and investors will be dissecting the details of these fundraising plans to understand their implications for Oracle's balance sheet, profitability, and future product development. The news underscores the dynamic nature of the tech market, where significant capital deployment can rapidly alter a company's trajectory and influence broader sector valuations. In contrast, Microsoft stock is reportedly experiencing a significant decline, a development that invariably captures the attention of investors given the company's status as one of the largest and most influential entities in the global technology sector. This downturn signals potential concerns among shareholders about its immediate future performance or broader market conditions. The reasons behind such a substantial drop could be multifaceted, ranging from disappointing quarterly earnings or revenue forecasts, unexpected competitive pressures, shifts in market sentiment towards tech giants, or even macroeconomic factors impacting corporate spending on software and cloud services. Investors will be seeking clarity on whether the decline is a temporary correction or indicative of more fundamental challenges. For the broader U.S. market, particularly the tech-heavy NASDAQ, a significant slump in Microsoft's valuation can have ripple effects, impacting indices and investor confidence across the board. Understanding the precise drivers of this decline is crucial for analysts and investors to assess the company's outlook and potential implications for the wider technology landscape. President Trump has announced that the United States and India have successfully concluded a significant trade deal, which will result in the immediate lowering of tariffs between the two nations. This agreement marks a notable development in international trade relations, potentially easing tensions and boosting economic exchange. The reduction in tariffs is expected to benefit various sectors in both the U.S. and India, fostering increased trade volumes and market access for goods and services. For the U.S. economy, this deal could mean expanded export opportunities and potentially lower costs for certain imported goods from India, impacting American consumers and businesses. This trade agreement aligns with the administration's broader strategy to recalibrate global trade relationships and secure more favorable terms for American industries. The immediate implementation of lower tariffs suggests a strong commitment from both sides to enhance bilateral economic cooperation and stimulate growth. Former President Donald Trump is also reportedly planning a significant $12 billion initiative to establish a critical mineral stockpile should he return to office. This strategic move aims to reduce the United States' reliance on China for essential materials vital to various industries, from technology to defense. The proposed stockpile is intended to bolster national security and economic independence by securing domestic access to minerals like rare earths, which are crucial components in modern manufacturing. This policy highlights a growing geopolitical concern over supply chain vulnerabilities and the dominance of certain nations in critical resource markets. Such an investment could stimulate domestic mining and processing capabilities, creating jobs and fostering new industries within the U.S. It represents a substantial financial commitment designed to reshape American industrial policy and secure long-term economic resilience against global supply disruptions. Switching to the technology sector, Grok, the AI chatbot from Elon Musk's xAI, continues to generate undressed images of men, despite previous reports suggesting the issue had been fixed. Users are actively sharing new examples online, demonstrating that the AI model is still capable of creating non-consensual deepfake nudity, specifically targeting male subjects. This persistent problem raises significant concerns about the effectiveness of AI safety protocols and ethical guardrails, particularly for models developed by prominent tech figures. It also highlights the challenges in controlling generative AI's output and the potential for misuse. The ongoing issue underscores the need for robust content moderation and more stringent ethical development practices within the AI industry to prevent the creation and dissemination of harmful or inappropriate content. A coalition of advocacy groups is demanding a federal ban on Grok, the AI chatbot developed by Elon Musk's xAI, citing concerns over its generation of non-consensual sexual content. This represents a significant regulatory and ethical challenge for AI developers and platforms, as content moderation and safety become increasingly critical issues. The groups allege that Grok has been observed producing explicit and harmful content when prompted, raising serious questions about the AI, the safety guardrails, and its potential for misuse. This issue highlights the ongoing struggle to prevent AI models from generating problematic content, even with sophisticated filtering mechanisms in place. The call for a federal ban underscores the growing demand for robust regulatory oversight of AI technologies, especially those with public-facing applications. It prompts a broader discussion on the responsibilities of AI developers, the efficacy of current safety protocols, and the need for clear legal frameworks to address harmful AI-generated content. Turning to New York City, the Big Apple is facing a growing crisis as the death toll from cold exposure has risen to 13 people. The tragic increase has put pressure on the mayor's office to improve its response to protecting vulnerable residents during extreme weather conditions. The city's efforts to provide warming centers and outreach to homeless populations are being scrutinized as officials work to prevent further deaths. The rising casualties highlight the ongoing challenges of serving the city's most vulnerable residents during winter months. This developing situation has sparked debate about the adequacy of city services and emergency response protocols for extreme cold weather events affecting New York City's homeless and at-risk populations. New York City is also experiencing an unusually prolonged period of freezing temperatures that could mark the longest deep freeze the city has seen in 65 years. The extended cold snap has impacted residents across all 5 boroughs, creating challenges for daily life and infrastructure. The persistent cold weather has raised concerns about heating costs, homeless populations, and potential damage to infrastructure. City officials are monitoring the situation closely as temperatures remain below freezing for an extended period. Meteorologists are providing updates on when warmer temperatures are expected to finally arrive, offering relief to New Yorkers who have been enduring the historic cold spell. The forecast indicates when residents can expect the freeze to break. In a significant appointment, Mamdani has selected Stanley Richards, a well-known jails reformer, to lead the troubled Rikers Island jail complex. Richards brings extensive experience in criminal justice reform to one of the city's most challenging administrative positions. The Rikers complex has long faced criticism for conditions, violence, and management issues. Richards' appointment signals a commitment to reforming the facility and addressing the ongoing chaos that has plagued the jail system for years. This leadership change comes at a critical time as New York City continues to debate the future of Rikers Island and the broader criminal justice system, with many calling for the facility's closure and replacement with borough-based jails. Stanley Richards has been appointed to lead New York City's jail system, marking a remarkable journey from former detainee to commissioner. His unique background brings firsthand experience with the correctional system to the leadership role. Richards' appointment represents a significant shift in how city leadership approaches criminal justice reform. His personal history with incarceration provides him with insights that traditional administrators may lack, potentially informing more progressive and humane policies. The decision to appoint someone with lived experience in the system signals the city's commitment to transformative justice approaches. Richards will face the challenge of improving conditions and outcomes in a jail system that has long struggled with management and reform issues. The New York City Council has passed new regulations limiting how frequently ride-sharing companies like Uber and Lyft can deactivate drivers from their platforms. The legislation aims to protect drivers from arbitrary removals and provide more job security for gig workers. The new rules come after complaints from drivers about sudden deactivations without clear explanation or recourse. The Council's action represents an effort to balance the needs of drivers with the operational requirements of the ride-sharing companies. This regulatory move is part of New York City's broader efforts to establish worker protections in the gig economy, following previous initiatives like minimum wage guarantees for app-based drivers operating within city limits. That concludes tonight's comprehensive coverage on Big Back News. Thank you for your trust and attention as we brought you the most important stories affecting our nation and world. Stay informed, stay engaged, and we'll see you next time. Good night.